it is a political appointment, and there have been a lot of people who have assumed that position in Mexico who have not been what Eloisa has been to the people that she was to serve. And that is to really respect them. Political appointments can be things that people accept for a lot of different reasons. But Eloisa accepted that role because she has a genuine love for these people, and they have a genuine love for her, which is why these projects that we're working on together can succeed. I traveled the mountains with Eloisa, and one day we were driving along a remote road, gravel road, and there was a body laying along the road. And 9 people out of 10 would have sped up their car and gone past it, but nope, he stopped, went over, and this man is alive. And he is obviously high on drugs, and he's throwing up, and she's getting a rag and cleaning up his face, and then makes arrangements for him to be shipped back to his home. And I don't know what happened to him from there, but I don't know how many people would have done what she did that day. And that's an example of the kind of commitment she has to these people, and it's an example of why they love her. So with that, let me just turn it back over to Eloisa, because she can do a great job of sharing more information that I think you'll find interesting.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Do we have the presentation on the screen? I have it on, and it says that I'm sharing it. Do you have it? Okay, fine.
Yes.
Okay. Let me get back to it. Okay. Where are the Tarahumara? And yes, and I'll go back to just to pick up from what Bob said. It was a very wonderful, eye-opening, heart-breaking, and filled with joy experience that I have had with the Raramuri. And of course, I still want to continue being that voice of telling them and telling you and sharing with the world that they exist. Where are the Tarahumara? They are located in the southern part of the state of Chihuahua, what you see in red. And these are 17, usually 17 municipalities. The ones in red, we could say, are the ones that have the highest population. And you see this other gentleman out on the cliff as he's looking down into the canyons, because the Sierra Tarahumara is a set of mountain ranges, valleys, and canyons. And they say that it is approximately 7 times larger than the Grand Canyon. So it's a very vast, vast area. So, okay, let me see if I can move. So the estimated population is approximately 180,000 people, even though I personally think that there might be more than that, because the census that are made do not reach all of those remote villages. So we might be missing some numbers here. However, this is just to give us an idea. They are mainly subsistence farming. Their families living in scattered communities in mountains, valleys, and hillsides. You might ask, why are they living up there and why haven't they relocated? Well, before the Europeans came to Mexico, to the area, they used to live in the fertile valleys close to the rivers. Those were the lands. But when the Spaniards came, of course, they were pushed away from those areas, and to survive, they went up to the mountains, to the most remote places, so that they could be safe. And another way of protecting themselves was not to congregate in small villages, but that was scattering out. So at that time, it was much easier to survive because They had forests, they could hunt, they learned, it was their tradition to use medicinal plants. But things have changed now. Things have changed now. There have been mining companies that have polluted their streams. Of course, the gold and the silver has been extracted, much of it. There's still some mining companies that are there, and that's part of the process. And then another situation that has been very detrimental to them is the illegal logging. But then again, they have survived. But these past 7 years have been very, very difficult for them because they have been going through drought. And this is just to give you an idea of how they farm. This is a donkey, or they might use the ox if they're lucky to have one. And I was adventurous enough one time, and I was up there and I was going to visit their things. And as we were driving, there was this man plowing. And I said, oh, I want to try that. So we jumped out of the truck, and of course, there I go. And it looked so easy. And he gave me the reins, and he just said, all you have to do is just, with this little stick, bang on his rear and he'll just follow. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't at all easy. I was taking the ox here and there. Of course, I had my laugh, and I immediately gave him back the reins because I said, my goodness, this is something else. It looks so easy, but it isn't. But that's been the tradition. So lately, we have been, when Bob invited me to become a member of the Pathways Rotary Club, of course, we were excited. And he said, maybe we can come back and do something for the Raramuri in this round. I said, I'll be delighted, so let's move. So we started with the medical equipment, with Mesa Medical Equipment, working at supporting the rural clinics and hospitals. There are many deaths in pregnant women because of the situation and because they're not well fed. Excuse me. So some years ago, Bob had started this nonprofit named Creation Care. And what we found as we were helping and bringing in the medical equipment, and we're very grateful for that. We're having a third shipment come in pretty soon, the next couple of weeks. So we had previously worked at delivering food packages in Garichi, and Cesar Chavez, who belongs to Friends of Tarahumara, Amigos de la Tarahumara, called me and he said, I made a trip and there's hunger. I gave out everything that I had. I don't mind skipping lunch and dinner. I know I'll go back home and be fed, but there's hunger. Can you reach out to your Rotarians friends? And I said, of course. So we made contact with J.B. Roberts, rest his soul, had created Hunger Plus precisely in support of the people that are malnourished and suffering hunger and starvation. So we started to make some shipments of food. So along with that, here's just a picture of the building you see in Lavender is a little room called a rural clinic. So there's the delivery of bed and some supplies. And this is in Guadalupe Calvo in the Sierra Tarahumara. This is part of the picture of where the medical equipment arrives in the warehouse of a friend. That also helps us to get the food that is going to be delivered. And we purchase a cornmeal, which is enriched with dried apples and other vitamins, so that it can be fed to malnourished and starving children and families. So they're loading the equipment and taking it up. This is a brand new clinic that was built in one of these areas that will help the people that come down from the villages. You'll see the dental equipment, some supplies, and all of those donated by Mesa. So before I move on to the other one, let me pick up on the feeding program. And I'll take a deep breath because another call came in and Cesar said, I'm very sad, but I have to give you this news. I've just been called to support a little girl named Carolina. She has been brought down from one of these villages into Guadalupe Calvo, and from there she has been transported to another hospital because the hospital where she was first taken to was lacking medication and food and supplies to attend to help her. So she was moved to another hospital in Parral, and we're trying to see what we can do for her. And I said, well, let's see, let's come together. What do we need to get, to supply medicine? And then he called me and he says, it's too late. Carolina passed early this morning. So we do have some pictures of little Carolina, but in respect to her family, to her soul, in dignity to what she did for others, in respect and dignity, this reaching out with dignity to her, she was in a little coffin taken back to her village. But we asked ourselves, what is Carolina's mother going back to? She had already shared with us that 2 others of her children had passed because of malnutrition and starvation. As a mother, I do not dare think of what that would feel like. So, of course, our hearts went out and we came together and started to work at taking to her town, the villages in Choriachi, near Choriachi, and the first, I should say, large amount of food was delivered in their area because we considered those other children. So here you see a picture of the mothers carrying their babies as they usually do, wrapped up in a chinique, in a wrap in their backs. This is the way they travel. And arriving at this place where food was delivered. This is one of our volunteers. You can see in the back, the truck with the food packages and the babies. There's a little baby wrapped in that pink shawl. So, and the guy, the man with the sort of whitish beard and the red shirt is Cesar Chavez. To us, Cesar Chavez is one of these unknown heroes because he puts everything together. He works at crossing the medical equipment. He calls in other volunteers, other people that want to donate. And he himself drives up to those villages, these remote villages. It takes 18 hours from El Paso where he lives. Of course, he was born in Guadalupe Calvo, so it's his town. So he's committed to serving them. So he makes these long trips, and he makes sure that everything, every item that is donated, every food package that is bought with donations, each one is delivered personally to the ones that need it. There is no intermediario. There's no one in between. So that's one of the things that we pride in, the transparency of all of this. Now, alongside with this reality that they're facing, in an effort to move, because we can't always be feeding them, so we want to move into sustainable projects. So one of these sustainable projects is improving soil, but we need to take another step and have have clean water for them in their houses, potable water, because this is going to reduce their illnesses, and it's going to have them they're not going to have to take these long 10, 15-kilometer walks to get 2 buckets of water from a source that might not be clean. So we found out about this nonprofit called Captar, and this was one of the answers to what we were looking for, a sustainable project that would help them, that we could create an alliance with them, work together. And the way they work is something that we are very happy to have encountered, because they make sure that the money that's donated purchases all that's needed for them to install a rainwater harvesting and storage system. They're just called water harvest. So whatever rainfall, snow, hail, or even dew falls on the rooftops of their homes is brought in through a set of pipes, and it's collected and brought in, and it's filtered, and it gets to a tank. What are the challenges that they face after taking those long walks, across the mountains? They come to a source of water, but you can see what kind of water it is. It's contaminated, animals drink, et cetera, and this is where they used to get their water, or many still do. So this creates illnesses. So as they start to install the water harvesting installation, the materials, they're trained by native Raramuris that have been previously trained and work for Captar. So this is the beauty of how this operates, because they are taught in their own native language. When you go to see them and you talk Spanish to them, they'll smile and they may grasp some of the words that you're telling and sharing with them. And when they don't understand something, they'll just affirm and say, hyena. Yes, yes, yes. But they're not actually understanding what we're trying to convey. So this is one of the successful points of this project, that they are trained in their native languages. And of course, the materials, through a very delicate process of purchasing, finding the best prices, the materials are driven up to the mountains. And then because the trucks cannot travel through the terrain to get to their villages, this is the way they transport the materials that will go to create the water harvest. So here are the women taking the tins that will go on top of their roofs, and these are the men, taking up these tanks where the water will be stored. Here you see the man up front in the white. It looks like a diaper to us, but it is the traditional wrap that they use. And of course, sometimes they do their original traditional suits, dresses, or they wear a shirt, or some of them are just dressed in the Western style, but they are Raramuris. You can see by the hair and of course the color of their skin. So the people, they solicit, once they hear about the water harvest. This is the beauty. The project is not taken to them. When they hear about the project, or maybe they see it somewhere, they write out a letter. Somebody writes out a letter for them, asking that they want support to have a water harvest system. So more training comes in, where they teach them about managing the water, and also receive sanitation training, which is a very important point. Now, the beneficiaries receive this training so that it will help them to reduce the risk of this disease. They are monitored and supervised as they do the installation. You see the black, I'm sorry, I don't have the pointer here, but the black pipes that go around the roof, that's how the water's collected, and it comes down through a pipe, it's filtered, and it arrives to this white tank. This is a before picture. This is the way, this is a clear example of their dwellings. You will see that some of them do not have a tin roof. They just covered sometimes they have a roof made out of logs. So they do get to cut trees, but then again, they have to be replacing them every so often. This is a before picture, and this is an after captar picture. You can see that there has been an addition to the top of the house, a new roof installed. And of course, you know, there's other additional videos and information that will give you a more detailed view of the process of what it entails to set one of these. This is a Raramuri mother, dressed in her traditional, in the way they dress. What impact do water harvests have in a community? Number one, there's a reduction in respiratory and gastrointestinal diseases because their houses, when they do not have these tin roofs, they have a lot of leaks. So there's a lot of humidity, plus the fact that sometimes they have to cook inside their home. And that creates a lot of respiratory diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, and many children even die of diarrhea. If you add to that the fact that they are starving or malnourished, you know, they are victims of death. It also have an environmental impact on the community because there's better management of water, there's the recovery of aquifers, and a reduction in tree felling that they used for their traditional roofs. And of course, the other part is the social part. They feel, to me, this is what makes a before and after in their lives. Of course, they are empowered. They have increased time for productive activities and a better quality of life, but they can say that they are living, they experience the joy of going outside of their home and opening a faucet and having water to drink, safe water that will mean they will have, their children will have a better chance to make it through that early stage. So as the community starts to come together to participate, to help each other, the word spreads out, and other communities want to participate in projects like this. So they send out petitions, and that's the way, that's how Captar gets more solicitations for water projects. Captar joined the United Nations International Commitment to achieve and fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals through clean water and sanitation. Now, this is what has been done in some villages, but there are still many other villages that need this support. The evidence to us as we participate, this is very important for any of us who are participating in a project, the evidence, the results. So Captar has a wonderful project where they, twice a month, they provide operational, financial, and narrative reports with photographs that are submitted to the donors. And at the end of the project, they deliver supporting documentation in original forms. The letter of commitment, it's a commitment that the villages make with the agency, with the nonprofit O, the original report of the delivery, and the original harvest delivery, you know, when it's done. And Bob, if you would be so kind as to jump here with me so that you can give them an idea. This is just a draft of a budget that we worked on. But I would like Bob to explain this to you. Please, Bob, will you please unmute yourself? And maybe you can add, you might want to add something else. I rather try to go a little bit fast in respect of everybody's time. Are you there, Bob? You need to unmute yourself. There you are.
Okay. Eloisa needed to have some way of explaining to people what a typical program might look like, and this is only an example. In Mexico, in the state of Chihuahua, there is a businessmen's organization called FACHAC. And FACHAC gets annual donations from businesses and professional people and collects that money and makes it available for public projects, which they are very careful to research. And so they are willing to match funds, not on a one-to-one basis, but they are willing to match funds that would be raised by donors, and we've just put in here RI. So that could be anybody, but if you had a roughly a $50,000 amount of money that's raised, you can see what FACHAC would be willing to contribute and what Qatar would be willing to contribute. And so you can see the various percentages. And then if you look at the cost for one water harvest system for a single home would be less than $2,000. When you divide that by the number of people who are living in the house over a number of years, the health costs that are saved, the lives that are saved, it's really a pretty remarkable return on investment. And all of that $1,910 takes care of the material, the fuel, it takes care of the labor to that people need to haul it out there. It's just a remarkably good deal. And we could, for that kind of money, we could, budget for 150 families, and you multiply that times the number of people who live in a home. It can be a lot of lives that are affected. Go ahead, Eloisa.
Thank you, Bob. So, sorry. This is a brief presentation. There's still so many of things that we have to share, and but your donation, of course, what we're trying to do is, of course, get our club involved and then reach out maybe to other clubs, and maybe we can work on a global grant. We've been receiving some training, and we're pursuing this possibility so that we might be able to serve these people and change their lives and make our lives more meaningful, add more joy to our lives in this wonderful and opportunity. And I call it a privilege of serving. So here it is. If you have any questions, we might be able to answer. We're teaming up with the Campestre Rotary Club in Chihuahua, Mexico. And of course, you have our numbers, our names, and please, if you have any questions, please feel free to make them. And you can, I'll stop the share so we can go back. I'm trying to. Okay.
Eloisa, maybe I can just tell everybody that this is a pretty modest proposal. Some of the global grants grow to be quite a substantial size. And for the amount of people who are in need of this kind of help, it would have to be a real sizable grant to make the kind of difference that is really needed over such a vast territory and people living so remotely. So this is a simple illustration, but our hope would be that if we were to get Rotary clubs like the Pathways Club and other Rotary clubs in Ohio and Mexico and Texas and other places to throw in with us, we might be able to really get enough funds together that when the Rotary Foundation